At one point, Dynamo was everywhere. His TV show was broadcast in 180 countries. He performed for Drake, Will Smith and Jay-Z. He was the new face of magic, a skinny kid from Bradford who made the world believe the impossible. But then he disappeared. No more arena tours, no more primetime TV. Behind the fame, Dynamo was fighting a battle no trick could cover up. On December 17th, 1982, at 16 years old, Nicky Shoesmith gave birth to Steven Frain, aka Dynamo. At 4 years old, his dad was sent to jail and his mum was left to raise 4 children on a council estate in Bradford.
Not having him around became a normal thing, like not having a father. You know, I was on a council estate where other people didn't have fathers around, or mothers, or, you know, a lot of broken families. So for me, it became just a normal way of life. I think if I'd have been a bit older and had more chance to understand more and miss more, then it would have maybe been harder.
Dynamo grew up on the Delph Hill estate in Wyke, one of the most deprived areas in the UK at the time. Money was tight, and as a kid, Stephen was heavily bullied, often for being small and weak.
So you were bullied at school?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. They kind of would do things like put me inside wheelie bins, push me down hills, and where I lived, it's called Delph Hill Estate, and it's separated from another estate called Woodside by a dam, and they used to throw me into the dam.
But this weakness came from something much more serious. At 14 years old, he was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, an incurable condition that affects the digestive system.
Well, I've got Crohn's disease, so technically I'm still ill now. I got diagnosed when I was 14, and it's kind of, you know, over the years I've learned how to deal with it. It's a little bit like having a cut on your arm, but inside your tummy, and every time you eat, it's like taking dirt and rubbing it into the open wound.
This struggle shaped him. He couldn't play sports like the other kids, so he turned to something else, something that didn't rely on size or strength: magic. Dynamo first fell in love with magic through his grandfather, who showed him simple card tricks. He quickly realised that if he pulled a deck of cards out, people stopped picking on him and started paying attention. In his late teens, he started performing magic in clubs and on the streets. He didn't have any big production or audience yet, but what he had was different. A modern style, not wearing a tuxedo or pulling doves out of hats. He wore hoodies and snapbacks and did magic that felt raw. At 17 years old, he underwent surgery to remove half of his stomach. At this same time, while still performing in clubs, he was approached by his dad, who he thought was still in prison. But the reunion with his dad would not go how he liked, and only showed him that prison had not rehabilitated his dad at all.
I performed magic in the Revolution Bar, and he came back a few days later. I mean, he kind of looked like me, so I kind of knew it was true. You know, I asked my mum about it, and she explained, you know, but yeah, he's not in jail anymore. He's been out and he's been asking about you. I think he tried to call my mum a few times. He'd called my nana's phone as well. They saw that I was getting on with my life and I'd got used to a life without him in it, so they felt that it was best for me to not have him in my life. It was so strange because he basically said, I see you've got a little crew around you. Do any of your friends want to help shift some stuff for me? And when I say stuff, I'm not talking about legal stuff. And at that point, I was just like, wow, he's clearly not been reformed, and I don't feel like he's the sort of person I need in my life right now, because I've spent a lot of my life trying to avoid this type of environment.
How long had it been since you'd seen him at that moment?
This was when I was 19, so from, say, 4 years old.
In 2001, while performing magic at Houdini's centenary celebrations at the Hilton Hotel in New York, Dynamo impressed the likes of David Blaine and David Copperfield, and when performing, one of the audience members shouted, "This kid's an effing Dynamo," and so the name was born. He dropped out of college and moved to the USA to live with his grandmother and pursue magic full-time, and at 20 years old, he moved to London to continue chasing his dream of becoming a magician. He started uploading his tricks online and sneaking into events backstage. He'd basically get his gigs by wooing the bouncers on the door with a bit of magic and hoping that the bouncers would put in a good word with A-list celebrities or whoever was backstage, and basically getting round through word of mouth. And his style caught the eye of MTV, and in 2006 he landed the chance to perform at the MTV Europe Music Awards. From there, doors started opening. He performed on British talk shows like Richard and Judy, started releasing his own DVDs, and at 22 years old he was offered to perform at the Super Bowl. But his whole life would change when his TV series Dynamo Magician Impossible was launched. Magician Impossible aired in 2011 to over 180 countries and consisted of Dynamo traveling the world, performing street magic and huge stunts for both everyday people and celebrities alike. The show was different to traditional magic shows, being filmed more like a documentary with cinematic shots. The show ran till 2014 for 4 seasons, totaling 16 episodes, and was a global hit. At its peak, over 30 million people were tuning in globally to watch some of the craziest stunts ever done by a British magician.
picture of me?
Now, I'll admit, Dynamo is good. I was a huge Dynamo fan growing up. I had all his books, all his CDs. Like, I'm not making this up. I've probably got, I don't know, 20 decks of cards in here. And I thought, as I got all these cards, and it is a Dynamo video, instead of just asking you to subscribe, I'm going to earn your subscription. After watching the next 20-30 seconds, you will not click off without subscribing. So if I woo you with this trick, you must subscribe. I was doing Magic since I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. So I feel like I still got something in the locker. As you can see, every card in the deck is different. This is a random deck. I'm gonna ask you when to stop. Obviously you can't actually pick, so I'll just do there. Let me try and do this without looking at the screen. Have a look at the card. I can't see what card it is. I'm just going straight back in the deck though. Hope you can see I'm not cheating. And then to the top. And if that doesn't earn your subscription, I don't know what will. So go down, you must subscribe now. If you want more videos like this, I'm not a magician, but I do make videos, documentary style videos every week. So make sure you go down, hit subscribe. I'd appreciate it very much. Thank you. And if you're impressed by the trick, just say nice one, Knowledge in the comments. Leave me a nice comment. I'd appreciate it. The show was so successful that in 2012, it won the TV Show of the Year at the Virgin Media TV Awards. Dynamo was named Magician of the Year in 2012, and the series became one of the highest rated original shows on the Watch Network, helping put the channel itself on the map. Off the back of the show's popularity, Dynamo launched the Seeing is Believing tour in 2015, performing in front of over 750,000 people across the UK and Australia, the biggest tour ever for a UK magician. But in 2017, at 35 years old, Dynamo's health reached a crisis point. He was hospitalized multiple times, battling severe arthritis brought on by complications from Crohn's and the heavy medications used to control it. His hands, the most important tool for any magician, became so swollen he couldn't even shuffle a deck of cards. Fans started to notice the once busy magician was going off the radar. Then in 2018, Dynamo posted a picture to Twitter that shocked everybody. His face had swollen from medication, and he explained that his Crohn's disease and the side effects of treatment had taken a massive toll on his body.
I'm used to just thinking, oh, okay, it's going to be uncomfortable for like half an hour and it'll pass. And it wasn't going away. And then suddenly blood was coming out of my mouth. I was vomiting. Blood was coming out of both sides. I didn't know what to do. It wouldn't stop. I was in so much pain. I was screaming my wife. I got rushed to hospital. They gave me all the medication to try, they put me on the drip and morphine, everything, and nothing was getting rid of the pain. Like, I never felt a pain like it.
Now heavily struggling with his health and coming to terms with the fact that he couldn't even do his only passion on earth, magic, his life took another huge blow after his grandma, the one person who always supported him, passed away, and he spiraled down to the darkest place he'd ever been to in his life.
Wanting to do magic and the pressures of trying to sustain a career and live up to people's expectations was almost an impossible task to do whilst I was trying to fix my body. And ultimately, I ended up in a situation where without magic, without being able to do what I loved, not knowing if I was ever going to be able to get it back, made me think, what's the point in my existence? And ironically, actually, I felt so numb that I'd hurt myself to try and feel something.
Self-harming.
Mm-hmm.
With nothing in his life at this time making him happy, he decided there was only one way out, a site that his wife would ultimately find him in and save him from.
Was there a moment you look back on and say that was rock bottom?
6th of November 2020.
Why was that the hardest day?
Because that was the day that I knew that she knew, because she found me and I tried to kill myself.
She found you in the house?
Mm-hmm.
She found you unconscious?
Yep, in the dog bed. And a big part of me thought, if I'm dead, then my problems won't affect these other people in my life and they will be all right. Because I felt like ultimately I was the problem. That was it. It was like, okay, if I'm not here, then everybody else might be happier and they can get on with their lives. And I'm the one person in this life whose opinion I genuinely care about. And no matter what I do now, in the future, there's nothing I can do that can erase what she saw. And that's the thing I'm the most ashamed of, because in the moment, I felt like I was trying to maybe do something that take all the problems I thought I was facing and remove them from everybody else's world. But I'd not actually thought about what these people would feel if I wasn't here.
Over the next couple of years, Dynamo took a step back from the public eye again to focus on his health, before returning with a new series called Beyond Belief in 2020. It was part magic, part documentary, and gave a raw look into his health struggles. He also entered some legal issues when a battle began over his name. After years of using the name Dynamo, a dispute with his former management meant that he lost the rights to use Dynamo as his name ever again. In December 2023, Steven embraced the end of Dynamo with a live TV special titled Dynamo is Dead. In the show, he symbolically buried the persona of Dynamo, showing the shift to now performing magic under his own name, Steven Frain. In 2024, Sky aired Miracles, a new special where he returned to street-style magic. It was less about spectacle and more about personal expression, showcasing tricks performed around England. And in 2025, it marked another defining moment because he launched a 47-date residency at Underbelly Boulevard in Soho, London. This was his first full-length show ever under his real name, Steven Frain. Rest in peace, Dynamo. It was raw, close-up, and audience-driven, an intimate experience that prioritized human connection over grand spectacles. And Steven openly credited the NHS for his return to stage, stating, "I wouldn't be performing again without their help." Dynamo's career has all the elements of a classic story. The rise, a skinny kid who went from council estates to global superstardom. The peak, walking on the River Thames, levitating beside buses, performing for the biggest celebrities in the world. And the fall, losing his health, his career, and eventually the very name that defined him. But unlike most stories, this one doesn't end in tragedy, because from that fall came rebirth. Dynamo may be gone today, but Steven Frain stands in his place. More authentic, more human, and more vulnerable than ever. That was cold. Subscribe.